The Dharma Discourses of Cardinal Master Chongsan. Part 2, Dharma Discourses. Chapter 12, The Way of Public Spiritedness. One Cardinal Dharma Master Chongsan admonished ordained devotees and wrote for them a phrase in literary Chinese: "Let your vision pervade the universe / may your faith and dedication remain consistent from past to present." He then explained, vision refers to your aspiration and your plans. Only when your aspiration and plans are grand will your success also be grand. Faith and dedication refer to belief and devotion. You will accomplish a grand enterprise only if your sincerity and effort do not flag till your aspiration is realized. 2. The Master said, once you have proclaimed through speech or the written word your intent to become an ordained devotee before heaven and earth, the Dharma realm of empty space, the sacred spirit of the founding Master, and our congregation, you must guard your faith and dedication for all eternity. Even if no one else under heaven pursues this practice or this public enterprise, and even if everyone offers nothing but criticism and ridicule, devote yourselves to this task till the very end with a firm determination never to allow this spirit to yield. 3. The Master said, if an ordained devotee is dragged around without self-awareness and, unable to overcome that hardship, lives a life at variance with the fundamental spirit of ordination, then it would have been better for that person to remain in lay life and assist with the order's tasks. If a widow forces herself to preserve her chastity without understanding the true meaning of a chaste life, she may fall into actual degeneracy if it is overdone. Likewise, ordained devotees without self-awareness become corrupted when not reflecting on the fundamental spirit of ordained life. Therefore, once you have met the right mentor, always rejoice in the way by single-mindedly seeking the way. Only by overcoming both favorable and unfavorable sensory conditions as they appear, remaining content with your given duty, and dedicating yourself to the order in pioneering the future will you become admirable ordained devotees for all eternity. 4. The Master said, the more trials and tribulations a given history endures for a righteous cause, the more glorious that history remains through the ages. On the other hand, a history that unjustly indulged in gaiety and merriment leaves only shame through the ages. In ancient times, Jesus voluntarily accepted the punishment of crucifixion on behalf of the public. Ichadon, d. 528, of the Silla dynasty voluntarily forsook his life in order to disseminate in this world the Dharma words of Sakyamuni Buddha and deliver sentient beings from their transgressive karma through his miracle. When they would not even spare their own lives for the sake of the public, what need is there to talk about the rest of their austerities and sacrifices? They are truly worthy exemplars of public spiritedness throughout the ages. 5. The Master said, those who commit themselves to public service may well emulate the spirit of Admiral Yi Sun-sin, 1545–1598, who remained at peace with his lot even while enduring wrongful treatment, bearing no resentment even when receiving no recognition from his superiors, and caring for the country's security without thinking about who may get the credit. They may well emulate the spirit of Minister Lin Xiangrui, Du, of the Zhao dynasty, 403–222 BCE, who, for the sake of the country, would slink away from his political opponents, even though the world might call him a coward, and the spirit of Wang Hui, 1363–1452, who accepted a government position for the sake of the masses, despite accusations of being unprincipled. 6. On hearing the news of the death of Paik Pom, Kim Ku, 1875–1949, the Master lamented on the nation's loss. After praising his unrelenting righteousness, his meticulous faithfulness, and the tenacity of his frugality and pragmatism, the Master said, while cherishing his magnificent spirit, if we attend to each matter in managing our order with a similar frame of mind, it will strengthen the development of this order. For you, too, once you are established in the right way, you should embrace a great purpose that will not be defeated, regardless of gain and loss, joy and suffering, or life and death, and no matter what type of hardship you may encounter. Once you have promised to share together your joys and sufferings as fellow devotees and have come together in friendship, then whatever situation you may face should not affect your mutual faith. Once you have vowed to accomplish this public service, then, No matter which duty you may be assigned, always be diligent in your activities and frugal in your consumption so that you may satisfactorily accomplish this great enterprise in the eternal world. 7. The Master said, there is a phrase, a hereditary vassal like a lofty tree. A hereditary vassal refers to a prominent minister whose family has served the state from generation to generation, so that the family's destiny becomes intertwined with the nation's. For us as well, those devotees whose life and death, joy and suffering, have become intertwined with this order are our hereditary vassals. A person with such fervor for this order and doctrine who, like Ichadan of the Silla dynasty, shares with the order throughout all three time periods its suffering, joys, and concerns, and who is willing to forsake his life, believing that the demise of this Dharma would be his own demise and the prosperity of this Dharma his own prosperity, that person is none other than a hereditary vassal of this order. The ancient Paich kingdom, 15 BCE 660 CE, was first named Sipch, 10 Ades, because it had 10 hereditary vassals, and was subsequently known as Paich, 100 Ades, when the number of such vassals increased to 100. With us, too, whether we have 1,000 or 10,000 ordained devotees, the more of them we produce who see their lives as intimately intertwined with this order and who are unaffected by the highest authorities of the world and untempted by gold, silver, or jewels, the more will our order forever flourish throughout the 10 directions. 8. The Master said, the source of any enterprise's success or failure is the attentiveness or inattentiveness of the masters. Maintaining consistent dedication and heedfulness from beginning to end is attentiveness, which is the source of success. Dwindling enthusiasm after experiencing some hardship or increased negligence with the passage of time is inattentiveness, which is the source of failure. We who are pursuing the Buddha's enterprise and practicing to becoming Buddhas must not abandon our continuous devotion and ceaseless heedfulness and must make every effort to reap great success that knows no retro-regression. 9. The Master said, ordaining does not make you all authentic ordained devotees any more than residing in a practice site makes you all persons of the way. We must not forget even for a moment the blood and sweat of the founding Master and our forebears that laid the foundation of our order. When we recall the history of its establishment selling charcoal and constructing levees in the dead of winter in Chongsan, traveling back and forth to Pyonsan while eating coarse meals and raising traveling funds by peddling straw mats, farming, and making confectionery during the construction of Iksan headquarters, and so on, we must see in even a handful of soil or a single pillar the result of the blood and sweat of the founding Master and our forebears. Always be frugal and do not waste anything. We must remember and sustain from generation to generation their assiduous founding spirit that accomplished the great through the small. 10. The Master said, it is said that in a wealthy household in Seoul, an A-frame backpack is enshrined in their ancestral hall in order to commemorate the way their ancestors began to build their family fortune through salt peddling and, at the same time, to remind the future generations of their ancestors' assiduous and frugal spirit. What an exemplary practice this is! We, too, must never forget the foundation of this enterprise, which was established through the assiduous and frugal devotions of our founding Master and the 9 initial disciples. For this order to develop forever, we must break through any future poverty or tribulation safely and joyfully by commemorating the poverty at the time of its inception. 11. The Master said, public funds are the congregation's money and are to be used for the sake of the many, hence, the transgression of misappropriating public funds is much greater than that for private funds. Therefore, be fearful in spending public funds. Also, it is said that, if one slanders or maliciously harms great public figures like Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or sages and saints, one will fall into a living hell, because such a transgression incurs the wrath of heaven and earth as well as the Dharma realm of empty space. 12. The Master said, even though one may hold only a minor position all one's life because of limited knowledge and mediocre abilities, one will be nothing less than a great person of the way and an authentic ordained devotee if, in caring for the public and the way, one's mind of taking pleasure in the way never ceases. On the other hand, if one's mind is discontent in all situations and wishes to receive excessive treatment incommensurate with one's own character, then that person is not an authentic ordained devotee. 13 The Master said, being an ordained devotee is the sacred vocation of those who, of their own accord, have made a vow and committed themselves to consecrating their lives through eternity. Hence, an ordained devotee should neither be concerned about not being recognized nor be upset at not being well treated. 14 The Master said, the mind of one who acts with a full sense of identification with the order is always at ease, whether or not one receives recognition. On the other hand, one who acts while distinguishing the order from oneself feels hurt and resentful when others do not recognize one. Hence, exert yourselves to become utterly impartial and selfless public servants by always reflecting on whether you are a person who devotes oneself completely to this order or one who uses the order to promote one's private interests. 15 The Master said, in either one's personal practice or public enterprises, there are those who pursue these either with a master's mentality or a servant's mentality. Practice performed with a master's mentality refers to a person who practices with the confidence that this practice alone is the path of deliverance throughout all 3 time periods, hence, whether one feels like practicing or not, and whether others recognize it or not, one steadily accumulates one's power of practice. Practice performed with a servant's mentality means when a person practices reluctantly and out of concern for the teacher's or other people's eyes and ears. In enterprises, too, a master's mentality means being frugal with the public's possessions as if they were one's own, taking care of the order's members as if they were one's own family, and taking the order's concerns and pleasures as if they were one's own, thereby sharing with the order its gains and losses, its hardships and joys. A servant's mentality means to remain indifferent even when the order's properties are wasted and its reputation damaged as if those were none of one's business, or any little merit one makes leave signs of one's merit making so that one keeps complaining or just calculating how much recognition one receives. Because a master is attentive and unconcerned about being recognized, proper and boundless merits return to that person. Hence, if one steadily keeps up a master's practice and enterprises, one will ultimately reach a realm where all the worlds of the 10 directions become one's own property. Such figures will be the great masters of our order. 16 The Master said, even in a private household, the master has more cares than the servant. Because it is his own household, the master thinks about more things, and, since he understands deeply the details of household management, he becomes concerned before anyone else. After all, one has to have some understanding before one will become concerned. Because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas understand the great matter of birth and death, the principle of the retribution and response of cause and effect, and the fact that all living beings are but a single family, they actually have great concern while being unconcerned. However, because ordinary persons and sentient beings behave as they please without any understanding, they have no real concerns even amid a whole sea of concerns. Therefore, regarding the order's household matters, the one who takes charge of matters of concern, pays thoughtful attention, and makes an effort to find solutions is the true master of the public path. 17 The Master said, the master takes the lead in all matters and has no complaints because he is the owner. He is concerned about and takes care of all his workers, whether they are at the center or on the fringes of the business, shares all hardships and joys with the entire group, does not abandon the enterprise regardless of either favorable or adverse conditions, and works hard till the very end to bring it to completion. Since you have all joined this order of the Great Way, you should be sincere masters of this public path, by reflecting often on yourselves to see how well you are maintaining a master's mentality. 18 The Master said, while I was counseling our colleague Chongsan to take a leave of absence to recuperate, I heard a thoughtful Dharma talk from him. Chongsan said, since I have already dedicated myself for life, I will be satisfied and without regrets if I can assist in producing many persons of the way and fostering good health among my comrades by performing my duties well. So, do not worry about me. Although one needs to take care of oneself in order to carry out public service, a mind like Chongsan's demonstrates the true spirit of an ordained devotee and the frame of mind of a master of the way of public spiritedness. 19 The Master said to the students, rules and regulations are the life of an organization. Once you have decided on a mentor and vowed to receive guidance, you must sincerely have faith in that teacher and follow his or her guidance. You should freely express your thoughts during consultation, but after a decision is reached following an impartial discussion, you must accept it gladly if you are to qualify as an authentic member of a public household. 20. The Master said, for discussions concerning personnel management, each institution must respect others' claims and every person must grasp the greater principle so that personnel may be properly allocated by appointing the right person to the right position. However, when there continue to be disagreements, follow the majority view after carefully listening to all parties. 21. The Master said, it is a serious transgression against the religious order and the Dharma realm if an ordained devotee recklessly breaks general rules and regulations, hinders the order's development for the emotional reasons of a few persons, destroys the two fields of blessings and wisdom of a large number of people by planting doubts in their minds regarding the principle of cause and effect and the way of neither arising nor ceasing, and does not encourage belief and public spiritedness in the congregation but subtly misdirects them to empty formalities and external splendor. Hence, do not commit such serious transgressions. 22. The Master said, while living the life of a devotee, it so happens that, by associating with a certain person, you may revive your sinking aspirations for practice, stir your aspiration for public enterprises, resolve your doubts and resentments, and remove your worries and anxieties. Such a person is one whose mind is alive. Accordingly, he or she is a master who revives colleagues' minds and helps establish this order. 23. The Master said, every fault committed by any single ordained devotee becomes the fault of the entire order. Hence, live a disciplined life following the Dharma and regulations. An organization is bound together by rules and regulations. Each one of us must preserve this Dharma without breaking it. Starting with our headquarters, each branch temple and institution must act in accordance with the rules, so that our order may progress ceaselessly and deliver the world through this Dharma. 24. In the 39th year of the One Buddhist era, 2nd month, February 1954, the Master said to a congregation of men and women, the order's development becomes clearer with each passing year. Unlike the past when others did not pay much attention to us, the devotees at headquarters, which is the central organ of this order, must first become role models of the world in every aspect, including practice, public service, and everyday life. Even if it might be difficult to expect the same unity of spirit as in the 9 initial disciples' time, the members' spirits must not transgress from the mentor's spirit. Hence, you should often request the mentor's guidance and follow it well. If the mentor's words are not properly executed, the order will be in disarray. Also, do not envy the world, but place all your hopes here and selflessly work hard. Unless there is transmission of heaven's endowment, one cannot bask in high glory. Our order's fortune is the great endowment of heaven, so that as this order develops, our own lives too will improve accordingly. Though our standard of living as regards food and clothing may be meager, we now have enough for a life of practice compared to when this order began. Furthermore, in such conditions, one has a chance to become a person of the way, and even to bestow merits on later generations. How can this not derive from the grace of our founding Master? Be alert and proceed only on this single path without having second thoughts. 25. In May of 1954, WE 39, the Master said further, though we may work together for the order in the same fundamental spirit of public spiritedness, the ways in which that spirit is executed in actual situations may be superior or inferior and have strengths and weaknesses. Always choose superior methods by taking a broad perspective and follow them well. The same matter can become either large or small depending on how it is presented. Hence, the basics of governance in a religious order are to take care of all matters with ease by making them as small as possible and to handle them on the basis of right principles. Pursuing development by creating factions is not as good as being unified. Whether they are men or women, young or old, if they unify their energies and mutually encourage each other on good things so that they forge ahead, while mutually giving advice and rectifying bad things, with the sole aim of developing this order in whatever manner possible, wouldn't that be enough? If the male community does not think only of itself but eagerly cooperates with the female community, and the female community does the same for the male community, and if the laity and ordained devotees, old and young, also do the same, then right principles will prevail and matters will go well. How beautiful and liberal a custom this would be for a religious order! The sole criterion should be what is right or wrong in a specific matter, not whether it concerns men or women, old or young. The sole criterion should be the greater principle, not discriminations between self and others, intimate and distant. An individual's strengths and faults should be encouraged or rectified at the personal level. Do not shift the blame to the whole community and argue about its rightness or wrongness. If our male and female devotees proceed in all matters in this fashion by making harmony and righteousness their criteria, then this order will develop continuously without factions. 26. The Master continued, from past to present, the basis for success in any organization is the spiritual unity of its congregation. If all the men and women in our congregation faithfully adopt the 9 initial disciples' spirit and, by focusing all their concerns and pleasures only on this enterprise, proceed single-mindedly, then our order will see progress daily and monthly. However, progress will be delayed if there are certain hindrances in the minds of the men and women in this congregation. In the founding spirit of the 9 initial disciples, there was no concern for themselves or their private household. Someone who is concerned about all sentient beings does not have time to think about oneself, or about such things as one's old age or future illness, and does not ruin the larger purpose by being drawn to the signs of male and female, self and others. If one only worries about one's own matters, one will become small-minded and sordid. Only when one thinks of one's neighbors first and is concerned about one's comrades first will that person be a true comrade and a Buddha and Bodhisattva. 27. The Master said, in our order, we should emulate a past example if it was good and follow a new idea if it is correct. The only thing that matters is the development of our order, regardless of the source of the ideas. There are instances when one tries hard to promote one's own ideas, but does not readily follow others' ideas and remains indifferent to them even when they are sound. Such an attitude is a poison that obstructs the progress of an organization or a nation and weakens its strength. Those who live in a congregation must first possess that spirit in which one joyfully follows and cooperates with sound suggestions, leaving behind all notions of self and others. 28. The Master said, there is a saying in geomantic theory that a curving dragon looks back toward its progenitor. This means that when a geomantic vein curves downward, it turns around and looks back toward its main peak. The geomantic energy there is supposedly always excellent since even an insentient mountain range looks back without forgetting its origin. Reflecting on this, all things in the universe have their root in empty space, all sentient beings have their root in each being's mind, and all human beings have their root in their respective ancestors. All organizations have their root in their founder and pioneers, and in the headquarters that centrally manages their organizations. Our order, too, was established through the sweat and blood of our founding master along with many other forebears and pioneers, as each branch temple and institution evolved from our central headquarters. Hence, we must never forget the toil of the founding master and our forebears and must forever maintain our gratitude and admiration for them. Also, each branch temple and institution must not forget that it has its origin in the central headquarters and should maintain a spirit of constant respect and cooperation. 29. The Master continued, but root and branches are non-dual, predecessors and successors are non-dual, and central headquarters and regional institutions are non-dual. Without predecessors, how can there be successors? And without successors, who would acknowledge the efforts and toil of predecessors? Without central headquarters, how can there be branch temples and institutions? And without branch temples and institutions, how can central headquarters realize its plans? Therefore, when making a vow, you always must first examine carefully the foundation and establish the vow there. In pursuing your individual practice, too, you must examine carefully the foundation and proceed with practice based on that foundation. In proceeding with any enterprise, you must carefully examine each one's particular situation so that predecessors fulfill the duties of predecessors, and successors the obligations of successors, parents, teachers, and superiors fulfill their responsibilities as parents, teachers, and superiors, and children and disciples their duties as children and disciples. If each person thus carefully examines the foundation and one's respective situations and thereby fulfills one's duties and responsibilities, then all matters will be flawless. However, if one's vow or practice follows the branches while neglecting the root, and if successors forget predecessors, or branch temples and institutions ignore the central headquarters, then that will be neglecting the root and following the branches. It will then be difficult to expect the enterprise genuinely to progress. Also, if predecessors and central headquarters neglect successors and other institutions and only seek their own benefits and rewards, that is following only the root and neglecting the branches. How, then, can we experience an optimal result in which root and branches are unified? Therefore, we must always examine carefully the root and particular situations in all matters, in order to strive for the order's development and for the individual's vow, in a spirit of mutual foundation and mutual reliance. 30. The Master said, though our enterprises have spread in various organizations, they are all our own enterprises. Do not be concerned only about your own given venture, but always think of all the ventures across the whole enterprise. Even if there are distinctions in assigned duties and differences of earlier or later, larger or smaller, our enterprise as a whole cannot proceed optimally if you pay no attention to other people's ventures. Only when you are both faithful to your own duties and caring for all other ventures as if they were your own will you be the true master of a great enterprise. 31. The Master said, our physical body operates through the functioning of the 6 sense organs. If a problem occurs with one of those organs, the rest work together to reinforce the malfunctioning one, even though it is not their immediate responsibility. As the problem organ heals, the merit of the body as a whole is revealed. Likewise, unity within an organization must be attained by all members fulfilling their respective duties, but also by collaborating well with a decent and generous mind on matters that concern the whole, and attributing each person's individual merit to the whole. The organization thereby becomes forever prosperous and highly successful. Even though our names and responsibilities may each be different, for the sake of our order, which is our foundation, we should mutually support each other with complete devotion by becoming one body and one mind. We must proceed with one mind and unified power by appreciating our comrades' abilities and merits as if they were our own. Only then will our order's enterprises prosper greatly. 32. The Master said, the selfish mind must be emptied before public spiritedness will arise. Public spiritedness has to arise before unity occurs. Unity has to occur before one becomes a true master who harmonizes all the 10 directions. 33. The Master said, though nothing is originally large or small, even the smallest of things can readily form something large when they band together, just as even a large thing ultimately becomes small when it is scattered about. The sky is the combination of formless air, the earth is the union of each tiny mote of dust, each drop of water combines to form the great sea and large rivers, each individual comes together to form the human race. Even billions start with a cent or two. The great spirit of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, sages, and saints, are the crystallization of a single undivided thought. When things unite, they become great, and from that arises awesome power. Look at the sky and the ground, look at the sea. Hence, those who are intent on an extraordinary enterprise with an extraordinary vision must first discern the awesome power of unity and, realizing that great principle, work hard at putting unity into practice. Therefore, our most urgent business is unity. 34. The Master said, unity of mind means to produce one-pointedness by redirecting toward the original nature the distracted thoughts that are scattered like numerous branches and leaves. Unity of the family means to unite family members' minds into one mind so that they may live happily and harmoniously. Unity of comrades means disclosing one's innermost thoughts and sharing life and death to achieve perfect collaboration. Unity of honorable funds means preventing waste in the consumption of clothes and food and encouraging diligence and frugality to establish a great public interest foundation. Unity of the world means to instruct and edify the entire human race through the great way and the right Dharma in order to realize taking refuge together in the single essence. Human character will certainly improve with unity of mind. A household will certainly prosper with unity of the family. An organization will certainly progress with unity of comrades. An organization dedicated to the public interest will certainly be constructed with unity of honorable funds. And the world will certainly advance dramatically with unity of the human race. 35 The Master said, the unity of those of medium spiritual capacity is like sand, no matter how much one tries to pile it up, it scatters grain after grain. The unity of those of low spiritual capacity is like mud, although it may be thin in texture, it forms a great lump when squeezed together. The unity of those of high spiritual capacity is like a great boulder, it forms a great unity all by itself. 36 The Master said, neither water nor air can be divided into separate parts, hence, they are always unified. For us to unify, we must first eliminate partiality in our minds and return only to that realm which is utterly impartial and selfless. Because the great unity that is free from any hint of partiality coincides with the principle of the universe, its awesome power is the same as that of heaven and earth. 37 The Master said, even when you are building a house, you need to have beams, posts, and rafters, as well as such insignificant things as a handful of sand and a piece of paper. Likewise, in establishing and developing this order, major and minor talents in various areas must all come together and fulfill their respective duties. How beloved and precious, then, is each member in each area of our entire congregation. Thus, the founding master said, all our senior and junior members should respect and rejoice in one another, even to the extent of carrying each another on their backs. We comrades must unify our thoughts and create a united force on behalf of this great enterprise by always loving, supporting, and respecting one another, and, even when a comrade has a certain fault, we should embrace, forgive, and guide that person. The good fortune of our order will then be limitless. 38 On witnessing students' discord regarding a certain matter, the Master said, even if you were to render such immense merit as to deserve the world, if you are in discord, not only will your mind be disturbed but your work also will not go smoothly. Hence, even in pursuing a single task, you must proceed in harmony for your minds to be happy and your work to go well. If you want to achieve great success, you must first harmonize with others. 39 The Master said, if a certain matter is not a grave injustice or will not cause great loss, do not be too confrontational about it. Creating opponents through discord regarding an insignificant matter could bring about a great loss regarding an important matter. The Master continued, there is no great loss in letting someone else win. Embrace the right cause and win just 20 to 30% of the time. A superior person lets oneself lose, even when one has the ability to win. A lesser person insists on winning, even when he does not have the ability to win. 40 The Master said, when you perform mental affirmation, always pray for the betterment of the world, our comrades, and all people under heaven. Only when you proceed by acknowledging as your own the suffering and happiness of the world and your comrades will you witness a great success, with your moral energy instantly reaching and ceaselessly interpenetrating with its object. 41 The Master said, the communal life of ordained devotees, starting from a clear understanding of the original meaning of spiritual and physical unity, should be focused on mutual affection for one another. Whenever comrades make spiritual errors, you should advise them sincerely with your undivided affection, while trying your best not to let their mistakes be revealed outside. Those who receive advice must try their best to repent and rectify their mistakes with a mind of gratitude. Whenever there are differences in the level of knowledge, those with superior knowledge must not look down on those with inferior knowledge, but should try to impart their knowledge as much as possible. If you are in possession of recondite insight or special knowledge, make every effort to share it with all members at the appropriate time. If a comrade falls ill, then offer with affection as much sincere support as you can. Whenever sadness, happiness, calamity, or misfortune occurs, you must sympathize with one another to the utmost. 42 The Master said, an ancient sage said, there are 3 types of helpful friends, those who are upright, those who are generous, and those who are knowledgeable. Our comrades who are deeply connected with each other through their affinities and moral energies over the 3 time periods are comrades and Dharma companions who will be supportive of each other through numerous lifetimes. We must therefore become sincere comrades with one body and one mind, by enlightening each other uprightly and correctly and guiding each other benevolently and thoughtfully. 43 The Master said, public and private are originally non-dual. If you set the boundary widely, then what is private becomes public, if you set it narrowly, what is public becomes private. 44 The Master said, do not forget your great original vow by becoming enticed by your selfish desires. In your practice, too, if you cultivate while thinking, I alone will become a special person by performing this special practice, then your practice will have a selfish motive and you will not be able to attain a great practice. In a public enterprise, too, if you calculate its merit with a mind tainted by selfish thoughts, you will not accomplish great work. You will accomplish great practice and great enterprise only by pursuing without selfish desires from the very inception an egoless and desireless practice and an utterly impartial and selfless public service. 45 The Master said, what the founding master most disliked was a disciple who, disregarding both the public and one's fellows, cultivated a special practice for oneself alone, thus seeking just to purify oneself. Only those who, together with all comrades, cultivate a Mahayana practice that is one suchness in action or rest and carry out a Mahayana enterprise that shares the suffering and happiness of all comrades are true disciples of the founding master and are sincere comrades. 46 The Master said, Buddhist sutras use the phrase the purity of the 3 wheels, meaning that the 3 constituents of donor, recipient, and gift should all be empty for it to be an authentic donation. Therefore, one may make offerings of material goods, of children to live ordained lives, or of oneself in service of the Buddha's work, but they become true offerings only when one does them with an empty mind. Only those who make offerings in this manner will become ancestors of the true Dharma lineage. 47 The Master said, there are 3 types of public service that recognize and requite the tremendous grace of the fourfold grace: education, edification, and charity. After receiving an education, you should teach your juniors, edify your neighbors, and render widely compassion and good deeds, thus simultaneously practicing education, edification, and charity. These 3 things are not only the 3 missions of our order, but also the 3 essential conditions of public service throughout eternity for us workers in the way of public spiritedness. 48 The Master said, though active proselytizing may be good, even the great way and the right Dharma could easily be considered worthless if they are recommended too forcefully or propagated excessively. A propagator should first observe the spiritual capacity of the audience, and then recommend the Dharma in a manner suitable to that person's affinities. Letting edification occur naturally during the course of one's own practice will make it truly effective proselytizing. 49 The Master said, bringing many people into the order is one method of deliverance, but it is not true deliverance if you let them join merely in name. Only when you frequently attend to new members so that they establish their own resolute faith will they receive true deliverance. Once you have become an original guide to a new adherent, you should be a real guide by continuously working to help that person or her receive deliverance. 50 The Master said, a person who edifies others will need to expound a teaching with words arising from conviction based on what one has initially felt and experienced, to sincerely create authentic affinities widely with others and to influence their minds by attending to them all. Only then will true Dharma affinities be created, mutual response of energies occur, and true edification be accomplished. 51 The Master said to the ministers, Kyomua, from the branch temples, our bodies are the alter egos of the founding master and the constituents of our order. If we do well, the founding master's awesome merit and our order's reputation will become even more prominent, but if not, they will both be damaged. Hence, we must never regard ourselves lightly, but be cautious during both action and rest at every step. In edifying adherents, too, we must sincerely serve as exemplars first through our conduct even in trivial matters, win over their hearts with an unbiased attitude, and have their faith and mind for public service always in touch with central headquarters. If an ordained devotee neglects to stay in touch with headquarters but instead leads them to have their faith focused too narrowly or to limit their public service to the local level, then not only will there be no unified edification, but the order will inevitably sicken. 52 The Master said to the ministers, "Those of you who engage in the mission of edification must always transcend factions and intimacy or distance. Meet every occasion with true sincerity. Do not neglect to express due courtesy when someone suffers an illness or a calamity, or experiences a sad or joyous event. Whether senior or junior, treat everyone with respect, so that there will be no fault in any of one's interactions." 53 The Master said to the ministers, "You first must serve as an exemplar through your own conduct, practice the Dharma together by recommending it to your comrades, and always stay in close contact with the central headquarters and consult often with important figures in the local community." 54 When Kim Chang Jun was departing to take a new post, the Master bestowed on him this verse in literary Chinese. "The way and its power are found in heaven and earth. But heaven and earth remain silent. Only human beings, making use of this principle, bring words and edification into being. Practice the way in both action and rest, so that the founding master's teachings will be widely disseminated." 55 When Xian was departing to take a new post, the Master said, "If you take care of all matters earnestly without selfish motives, then even though you are leaving the headquarters we will not be far apart. Take care of all matters by clearly defining public and private, make all issues involving men and women and fiscal matters fair and clear, and first practice what you preach so that the congregation will follow you on their own. Neglecting public matters under the pretense of doing your own practice is not the proper duty of ordained devotees. Hence, make your practice and public service non-dual by cultivating practice for the sake of public service and public service for the sake of practice. In edification, there is nothing better than edification through the power of the way. In practice, the practice of one-pointedness is fundamental. If, externally, you bequeath your virtuous merit widely and, internally, make every effort to achieve mind power, then, by naturally amalgamating your power with heaven and earth, you will attain great power in your edification and your practice." 56 The Master said, "What is most important in a human being is the mind. The value of one's life depends on whether or not one's mind is righteous. The rise and fall or prosperity and decay of a family, society, or nation will be determined by their leader's state of mind. If the leaders of our order handle all matters fairly and justly by staying grounded in righteousness, the congregation will not lose its confidence in them and will accumulate authentic practice and merit without wandering away along deluded paths, and this order will stay prosperous forever." 57 The Master said, "It is the mind dharma of practitioners and the virtue of leaders to make their energies harmonious first, before going on to edify others widely. Leaders, by primarily concealing others' faults and revealing their good points, should forgive with benevolence when confronted with violence, correct with truthfulness when faced with wile, and respond with justice and friendliness when others try to exert their authority or act out of self-interest. They should be able to edify widely all beings under heaven with their harmony of mind and harmony of energy." 58 The Master said, "Since ancient times, it is said that resentment and danger follow from wielding power. In a religious order, too, if it misapplies its dharma and relies on power or abuses its authority, then the religion will begin to sicken. Therefore, the leaders of our order must never wield power or become arrogant, even as the authority of our order continues to grow. With humility as their wisdom grows and modesty as they are promoted to higher position, may this order be free of maladies for all eternity. In the realm of the nature, there originally is no distinction between either high and low or noble and base." 59 The Master said, "In the future, many peerless persons of the way will be produced in this order, and there will be many requests in this world for their guidance. However, persons of the way, being indifferent to material desires and having transcended fame and reputation, just render public service without dwelling on signs even when they are forced to take a position for the sake of the masses, and would neither pursue an enterprise out of material desire and a quest for fame nor stay in a position for long out of a craving for authority. 60. The Master said, a great leader who looks equably after the masses through the great virtue of no thought is like the heart, which resides deep within the chest and sustains the entire body. 61. The Master said, one who envisions and guides a public enterprise should first uphold the larger principle, widely examine public sentiment, establish a good plan, and be knowledgeable in accounting. 62. The Master said, there are 4 essentials in a leader's handling of matters. First is to handle them fairly and honestly without transgressing rules and regulations or being swayed by intimacy or distance. Second is to handle them by letting go of the small eye to look at the whole and observe the far future without being enticed by the immediate. Third is to handle them harmoniously and generously, on a foundation of human affection and justice. Fourth is to handle them explicitly through accurate accounting and consistent clarity from beginning to end. 63. The Master said, one who guides the masses should always exercise choice in action without selfishness and with undivided mind, whether in action or rest. When one speaks, too, one must be careful about each word, examining closely what gain or loss it might eventually bring to all of human society. 64. The Master said, the mind of the masses ultimately follows one who has the power of the way. The mandate of heaven ultimately returns to one who is free from selfishness. He then wrote down this phrase in literary Chinese.